Introduction: The invisible pattern of failure. You don't fail because you're lazy. You don't fail because you're not smart enough. You don't even fail because of your past, your parents, or your painful mistakes. You fail because of one decision you haven't made yet. Most people go through life carrying invisible weights, habits they didn't choose, stories they never questioned, identities they didn't consciously build. They wake up, work, worry, sleep, repeat. Somewhere deep inside, they know they were meant for more. But every time they try to break the cycle, something pulls them back. This book is about that something. It's not motivation. It's not strategy. It's not a lack of time or talent. It's the silent patterns that shape your identity, patterns passed down, picked up, or simply assumed. These patterns decide who wins, who waits, and who wastes their life wondering what if. Here's the truth. Failure isn't a moment. It's a direction. And most people are walking toward it without even realizing. But there's a decision, a real decision, that changes everything. Not a goal, not a resolution. A foundational choice that rewires how you see yourself, how you act, and what you allow into your life. If you're tired of starting over, if you're done with almost succeeding, if you feel like something inside you is bigger than the life you're living right now, then this book is for you. Because once you understand why most people fail, you'll finally see how to win on your terms. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Comfort Trap: When Safety Becomes the Enemy. Failure rarely looks like disaster in the beginning. It doesn't come storming in with fire and chaos. It arrives quietly, wrapped in convenience, disguised as not today. It feels safe, reasonable, even responsible. That's why most people don't see it for what it truly is: a slow descent into mediocrity. Most people don't fail by making one massive mistake. They fail by making small, comfortable choices day after day, week after week, until one day they look up and realize they've built a life they never actually wanted. Comfort is seductive. It tells you to wait until you're ready. It whispers that your dreams can wait, that you'll try harder next week, next year, or when things settle down. Comfort doesn't challenge you, and it doesn't demand anything from you. But here's the truth. Comfort is not your friend. It's your silent assassin. The trap is this. Your brain is hardwired to seek safety. It wants predictability, familiarity, and ease. It wants you to avoid risk at all costs. And in a world where discomfort often means danger, that instinct made sense once. But today, that same instinct is the reason people scroll instead of start. It's the reason big goals become vague intentions, and why New Year's resolutions are forgotten by February. When comfort becomes the default, growth becomes the exception. Think about it. The people you admire, the lives that inspire you, none of them were built inside a comfort zone. They were built through risk, challenge, discipline, and relentless discomfort. Greatness doesn't bloom in soft soil. It grows in tension, friction, and pressure. So why do so many people stay stuck? Because the comfort trap doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like home. And most people would rather stay in a familiar prison than walk into unfamiliar freedom. But here's where everything begins to shift when you stop asking, what feels good right now? And start asking, what builds the life I truly want? The difference is subtle, but it's everything. The first question leads to shortcuts. The second builds character. The first numbs your potential. The second ignites it. Escaping the comfort trap doesn't mean you burn yourself out or live in constant pain. It means you become someone who chooses long-term freedom over short-term ease. It means you begin to identify comfort not as a reward, but as a red flag. And here's the twist. Once you train yourself to lean into discomfort, just enough to stretch, to grow, to expand, you'll find that your new normal becomes progress. Not because it's easier, but because you've changed. That's the beginning of real success. Not a moment, but a mindset shift. Not an achievement, but an identity built on courage. Because the people who win, they don't avoid discomfort. They master it. And that mastery begins with one decision. I will no longer let comfort make my choices for me. Chapter 2. The Lie of Later. How Procrastination Destroys Potential. There's a dangerous lie that sounds almost harmless. It's just one word, whispered inside your head whenever it's time to act. That word is later. Later sounds logical. Later feels safe. Later gives you the illusion of control, like you're still on track, just not today. But the truth is brutal. Later is how dreams die in disguise. Most people don't consciously choose to waste their lives. They just keep choosing later. Later becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. Next month becomes someday. And someday, that's where potential goes to rot. You tell yourself you'll start the business when you have more time. You'll write the book when you feel more inspired. You'll fix your health when work slows down. But here's the truth. Life never slows down. It only gets louder. And more time is a lie comfort tells you to keep you in place. Procrastination isn't just a productivity issue. It's a belief problem. Deep down, it's rooted in fear. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of being judged. Or worse, fear of discovering you're not who you thought you were. So you delay. You distract. You disguise avoidance as planning. But every time you delay action, you train your brain to believe one thing. I'm not ready. And the more you believe that, the more powerless you become. Momentum is a fragile thing. It's built in seconds, but lost in silence. When you say later to the right action, you're not just postponing success. You're rewiring your identity as someone who doesn't follow through. Think about this. How many moments in your life could have been the moment, but were sacrificed to comfort, to doubt, to not now? The truth is, no one is ever really ready. The people who move fast aren't fearless. They just train themselves to act before emotion takes over. They've realized that clarity doesn't come before the action. It comes from action. The longer you wait, the louder the fear gets. The faster you move, the quieter the doubt becomes. So, how do you kill the lie of later? You make urgency a habit. You don't wait for permission, perfection, or a sign from the universe. You decide. You move. You show up. Messy, uncertain, unprepared, but present. Because presence beats perfection every single time. Most people wait for the right time. The few who win, they decide this is the time. And that decision changes everything. From now on, when your mind whispers later, answer back with this. If not now, then when? And if you can't give a real answer, then it's time to act. Not later. Now. Chapter 3. The Blame Game. Escaping the Victim Mentality. There's a pattern that quietly destroys more lives than bad luck or lack of talent ever could. It's not obvious. In fact, it often hides behind language that sounds reasonable, even justified. But underneath it all is a belief that strips you of all your power. It's not my fault. That one sentence is the anthem of the victim mindset. It says, I'm not in control. Life is happening to me. I'm just trying to survive. And while it might feel emotionally comforting in the short term, it's the fastest way to guarantee long-term failure. Here's the harsh truth. As long as you blame something or someone outside yourself, you've given away your ability to change. Blame feels safe. It's easier to point to your parents, your past, your boss, your trauma, your partner, the economy, or the government. It gives you a target to be angry at. It gives you something to blame for your lack of results. But here's the trade-off. Blame feels good, but keeps you powerless. Most people would rather be right about their limitations than wrong about their potential. They'd rather say it's too hard than admit, I didn't follow through. But nothing truly changes until you're brave enough to say, this might not be my fault, but it is my responsibility. Responsibility isn't about guilt. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about taking back control. When you stop blaming, you stop waiting. You stop waiting for someone to fix it, someone to rescue you, someone to make it fair. You realize no one is coming. And that's good news because it means you're free. Here's a rule of life few people ever learn. You can't change what you don't own. The moment you take full responsibility, not 50%, not 80%, but 100% for your results, your energy shifts. You stop trying to change the world around you, and you start changing your response to it. That shift is where transformation begins. People with a victim mindset believe life is happening to them. People who win believe life is happening through them. They don't wait for better circumstances. They create them. They don't hope someone sees their worth. They prove it to themselves. So how do you escape the blame game? You practice extreme ownership. You own the decision to stay stuck. You own the excuses. You own the habits you've tolerated. And then, most importantly, you own the power to change it all. Because once you stop blaming, you start building. And in that moment, you're no longer a victim of your life story. You become the author. Chapter 4. The Illusion of Trying. Why Effort Without Commitment Fails. I'm trying. Those two words might be the most dangerous phrase in personal growth. Trying sounds noble. It sounds like effort, like movement, like progress. But in reality, trying is often a disguise for hesitation, fear, and indecision. People say they're trying because it gives them an emotional exit. If they fail, well, at least they tried, right? But here's the uncomfortable truth. Trying isn't the same as committing. Try means you're still leaving the back door open. Try means you're hoping it works, not making sure it does. There's a huge difference between saying, I'm trying to eat healthy, and saying, I don't eat junk food anymore. One is effort. The other is identity. One is hoping. The other is deciding. The world doesn't reward effort. It rewards results. And results don't come from trying. They come from commitment. Think about this. When a plane takes off, the pilot isn't trying to get in the air. He's either lifting off or he's not. When a surgeon walks into the OR, she's not trying to save a life. She's operating. She's fully in. And that's what most people are missing, the moment of no return. The moment when you stop testing the waters and just dive. When you stop asking, what if this doesn't work? And start declaring, this will work because I won't stop until it does. People who succeed aren't necessarily smarter or more talented, but they decide differently. They don't entertain the idea of quitting. They don't keep one foot in and one foot out. They burn the boats. They close the escape hatch. They commit. Most people never cross that line. They stay in the shallow end of effort, constantly trying without truly showing up. And then they wonder why nothing changes. If that's been you, there's no shame, only this truth. Until you commit, results will always be temporary. Commitment doesn't mean you'll get it perfect. It means you'll keep going even when it's messy, even when you're tired, even when no one's watching. Especially then, because consistency isn't sexy. Discipline isn't exciting, but they build the kind of success that trying never could. So here's the decision that separates the ones who break through from the ones who stay stuck. Stop trying. Start becoming. Trying says, I hope this works. Becoming says, I will become the kind of person for whom this always works. That's the shift. That's the difference. And that's the beginning of everything changing. Chapter 5. The Wrong Crowd. How environment shapes your identity. You are not just a product of your choices. You are a product of your environment. And more importantly, the people you allow into it. Most people fail not because they lack discipline, but because they're trying to grow in soil that was never meant to help them thrive. They are surrounded by mediocrity, drained by small minds, and encouraged to shrink in order to fit in. Let's be honest. It's nearly impossible to live a powerful life when you're surrounded by people who are comfortable being powerless. Every time you try to level up, someone in your current circle will feel threatened. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because your growth challenges their stagnation. They'll call you obsessed, unrealistic, too intense. They'll remind you to be grateful or to slow down. But what they're really saying is, don't leave us behind. And if you're not careful, you'll listen. Not because you believe them, but because it's exhausting to constantly defend your ambition in a room full of people who gave up on theirs. That's why environment isn't neutral. It either pulls you forward or holds you down. It either reminds you of what's possible or convinces you to settle. Success is contagious, but so is failure. Motivation is contagious, but so is apathy. Confidence is contagious, but so is fear. You don't need to cut everyone off or become cold-hearted, but you do need to become conscious. Ask yourself honestly, do the people around me challenge me to grow? Do they reflect the future I want, or the past I'm trying to escape? Are my standards higher because of them, or lower? Most people fail because they spend their lives defending themselves in toxic environments instead of designing empowering ones. And here's the truth. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your environment. If you're always the most driven person in the room, you're in the wrong room. If your friends roll their eyes when you talk about your dreams, you're with the wrong crowd. If the people around you only see who you were, not who you're becoming, it's time to upgrade your circle. This isn't about being better than anyone. It's about refusing to play small just to make others comfortable. Because the decision to grow will always create friction. And that friction either breaks you or builds you. So what do winners do? They curate their space like their life depends on it, because it does. They surround themselves with energy, excellence, honesty, and hunger. They stay close to people who remind them of who they could be, not just who they've always been. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with the right tribe. And if you want to win, leave the room that makes you shrink and find the one that makes you rise. Chapter 6. The Fear of Being Seen. How Judgment Keeps You Small. Most people aren't afraid of failure. They're afraid of being seen failing. They don't fear rejection itself. They fear the look in someone's eyes when they fall short. The whispers, the opinions, the social consequences of stepping out and being different. And so they shrink. They don't launch the business because it's not the right time. They don't speak up because they're still learning. They don't chase the dream because what will people think? Here's the raw truth. Most people fail before they even begin, not because they lack ability, but because they're trying to avoid embarrassment. They trade their future for approval. They give up their power for permission. And in the process, they lose the one thing that truly matters: themselves. Judgment is a mirror. When someone judges you, they're not seeing you clearly. They're seeing their own limitations reflected through your courage. But when you internalize that judgment, you make it real. You become a prisoner of opinions that don't even belong to you. If you want to rise, you have to risk visibility. You have to be willing to stand out, to be misunderstood, to be criticized. Because the higher you climb, the more visible you become. And the more visible you become, the more vulnerable you feel. But here's the paradox. The version of you that's capable of greatness will never emerge until you stop hiding the version of you that's afraid. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the cost of authenticity. You don't get to inspire others while still playing it safe. You don't get to lead without being seen. You don't get to win without the world watching you risk the fall. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. You will be misunderstood. Some people will laugh. Others will criticize. A few will walk away. But here's what they'll never get to do. They'll never get to be you. They'll never know what it feels like to bet on yourself. To show up, fully seen. To walk into fear and keep walking anyway. So here's the decision that changes everything. Will you live for their approval or for your own freedom? Because freedom costs judgment, but judgment costs your life. You can either hide and be accepted by people who don't even know the real you, or you can be fully seen and find the ones who truly belong in your world. Most people will choose comfort over exposure, but the ones who win, they let the world see them, even when they're still becoming. Especially then. Chapter 7. The Power of Non-Negotiables. Rules that redefine you. Change doesn't happen by chance. It happens by commitment. And commitment isn't about motivation. It's not about how inspired you feel on any given day. True commitment is built on something deeper, your non-negotiables. Non-negotiables are personal rules you refuse to break. They are the invisible boundaries that shape your actions, your identity, and ultimately, your life. Most people live by preferences. I'll go to the gym if I feel like it. I'll wake up early if I'm not too tired. I'll work on my dream when I have more time. But preference-based living leads to preference-based results. Temporary, inconsistent, and fragile. The people who create extraordinary lives don't rely on preference. They live by principle. And that principle shows up as non-negotiables. Clear, unbreakable rules they set for themselves regardless of how they feel. A non-negotiable isn't a goal. It's not a wish or a plan. It's a line in the sand. You don't cross it. You don't debate it. You just live by it. For example, I don't skip workouts, ever. I wake up at 5 a.m. every weekday. I write 1,000 words a day, no matter what. I never speak negatively about myself. I don't spend time with people who drain my energy. These may sound extreme to someone living on autopilot, but that's the point. You don't create change by staying reasonable. You create change by becoming intentional, by designing a code of conduct that serves your future, not your feelings. Non-negotiables create structure. They remove decision fatigue. You no longer ask, should I do this today? You just do it, because it's who you are now. They also reveal something powerful, integrity with yourself. When you break promises to others, you lose trust. When you break promises to yourself, you lose identity. Every time you keep a non-negotiable, you build self-trust. You prove to your subconscious that you're the kind of person who follows through. And that identity shift ripples into every area of your life. The truth is, you don't rise to your goals, you fall to your standards. If your standards are negotiable, your success will be too. But when you raise your standards and protect them with non-negotiables, you change the game. You don't need to feel ready. You just show up as the version of you who already decided. Start small if you need to. One rule, one commitment, one boundary, but make it sacred. Because once you set even one non-negotiable, something changes. You stop trying to manage your life, and you start leading it. And that's the real shift. Leadership doesn't begin when others follow you. It begins when you follow yourself. Relentlessly, consistently, with no room for negotiation. So ask yourself, what are the rules I need to live by to become who I'm meant to be? Then write them down, make them real, and most importantly, live them. Every single day. Because in a world that constantly tries to pull you back into comfort, your non-negotiables are the anchor that keeps you aligned with your future. Chapter 8. The Repetition Principle. Why Success is Boring. Everyone wants the result. Few are willing to repeat the process. We live in a world addicted to novelty, new hacks, new goals, new distractions. But success? Success isn't sexy. It's not explosive. And it's definitely not new. Success is boring. It's waking up and doing the same fundamental things, over and over, long after the excitement has worn off. High performers don't chase stimulation. They master repetition. Because what actually separates the best from the rest isn't talent, luck, or timing. It's the ability to show up consistently, even when it's no longer fun. Most people quit not because the dream was wrong, but because the path felt repetitive. It felt mundane. It didn't feel like progress. But repetition is progress. Discipline is movement. Boredom is part of mastery. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If you're constantly seeking variety, you're probably avoiding growth. Growth lives in repetition. Repetition builds habits. Habits build momentum. And momentum builds the life you actually want. Take any area of success, fitness, finances, business, mindset, and you'll find one common thread. The winners mastered the basics, then repeated them until those basics became identity. Want to get fit? Lift, eat clean, sleep well, repeat. Want to build a business? Serve, sell, systemize, repeat. Want mental clarity? Reflect, journal, breathe, repeat. There are no shortcuts. There's no perfect strategy that lets you bypass boredom. There's just the work and the willingness to keep doing it long after others stop. Repetition is not punishment. It's refinement. Every time you repeat, you get sharper, quicker, more efficient. You build confidence, not from hype, but from earned results. And here's the secret. What feels boring in the moment becomes powerful in hindsight. That morning routine you repeat every day, it's shaping your future. Those small, consistent actions, they're stacking up silently. So don't judge your progress. If you only act when you feel inspired, your results will be inconsistent. But if you commit to the process, regardless of mood, you become unstoppable. Greatness doesn't come from intensity. It comes from consistency. Because the people who succeed wildly are not necessarily the most talented. They're the ones who didn't stop. They didn't get bored and chase something new. They didn't need everything to be exciting. They understood a simple truth. Repetition is the price of transformation. So the question is no longer, How can I stay motivated? The real question is, can I stay committed even when I'm not? If the answer is yes, you've already separated yourself from 99% of the world. Because while they chase the next dopamine hit, you're building something real. While they start over, you keep stacking. While they quit, you repeat. And in the end, that's what makes all the difference. Chapter 9. The Environment Equation. How Surroundings Shape Your Destiny. You are not just a product of your goals. You are a product of your environment. Most people try to change their lives by changing themselves. More discipline, more focus, more motivation. But here's the truth most ignore. Your environment will beat your willpower every time. You can have the strongest intention in the world, but if your surroundings don't support that version of you, change becomes a constant uphill battle. It's like trying to swim upstream while the current pulls you back into your old identity. Look around. Is your space set up for growth or distraction? Are the people around you building you or draining you? Do your daily habits reflect your future or your past? If your environment makes it harder to win, it doesn't matter how much you want it. Because change doesn't just require internal shifts, it requires external alignment. This is the environment equation. Identity equals environment x repetition. Who you become isn't just based on what you decide. It's shaped by what surrounds you, repeatedly. Want to eat healthier? Fill your kitchen with clean food. Want to focus more? Design a distraction-free workspace. Want to be more confident? Spend time with people who speak life into you, not fear. Here's the part that's hard to admit. Some environments you inherited, you didn't choose them. But staying in them is a choice. And as long as you remain loyal to environments that keep you small, no mindset shift will ever fully stick. Because your surroundings will keep pulling you back into the version of you that fits that space. If you want to grow, you have to upgrade your context, not just your content. Sometimes it means changing rooms. Sometimes it means changing circles. Sometimes it means creating boundaries, removing noise, or even saying goodbye to relationships that no longer align. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Think of a plant. It doesn't grow by trying harder. It grows because it's placed in the right soil, with the right light, space, and nutrients. You're no different. You don't rise by force. You rise by design. And design starts with asking, what spaces do I need to be in to thrive? What habits can I build into my environment so success becomes automatic? Who around me reflects the future I want, not the past I'm trying to escape? When you upgrade your environment, you reduce resistance. You make the right choice the easy choice. You stop fighting your surroundings and let them fight for you. This is how real transformation becomes sustainable. Not just by becoming stronger, but by making your environment smarter. So if you're serious about the next level, don't just change your mindset. Change your setting. Because your destiny isn't just built on decisions. It's built on what you allow to surround you, shape you, and speak into your becoming. Chapter 10. The Final Choice. Burn the boats or stay ashore. Every transformation reaches a moment of no return. Not another motivational quote. Not another plan. A decision. One that separates those who try from those who commit. One that demands you stop hedging your bets and finally choose. Burn the boats or stay ashore. The phrase comes from ancient war strategy. When generals truly wanted to ensure victory, they'd have their soldiers burn the ships that brought them. No way back. No retreat. Only forward. That's what full commitment looks like. Not I'll try. Not I'll see how it goes. But I'm all in. I've decided. And I'm not negotiating with fear anymore. Most people never reach their next level. Not because they're incapable, but because they leave too many doors open. They chase plan A with one foot still in plan B. They dream of change, but keep a safety net tied to the old version of themselves. They prepare to leap, but keep glancing backward just in case. Here's the hard truth. You don't get a new life while still clinging to the old one. There comes a point when you have to choose fully, finally, and without conditions. Yes, it's terrifying. Yes, it's uncertain. But that's what makes it powerful. Commitment is the energy that transforms intention into momentum. It's the force that tells the world and yourself, this is who I am now, and I'm not going back. When you burn the boats, you don't need more motivation. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need to keep moving because there's no other option. Think about what this means in your life. Are you starting a business while still holding on to the backup job you hate? Are you trying to grow but still surrounded by people who keep you small? Are you saying you want change while protecting every exit door? That's not commitment. That's hesitation dressed up as strategy. Real change requires real risk, and risk means cutting ties with comfort. But here's what people miss. Burning the boats doesn't mean being reckless. It means being clear. Clear about who you are. Clear about what you want. Clear that failure is not the enemy. Indecision is. So here's the final choice. Will you stay on the shore of who you've always been? Or will you light the match, burn the boats, and build the future you say you want? Because no one is coming to do it for you. There is no perfect time. There is only now and the decision you make in it. All transformation begins with a moment like this. A moment when you stop rehearsing your excuses and you take the leap. Not because it's safe, but because it's yours. Chapter 11. The Fear Filter. How hidden fears sabotage bold moves. Not all fear screams. Some of it whispers. It shows up as hesitation, as overthinking, as procrastination dressed up as perfectionism. You tell yourself you're waiting for clarity, for the right moment, for more information. But if you're honest, it's not strategy holding you back. It's fear. And not just the obvious kind. There are hidden fears quietly running the show. Subtle, internal filters that distort your thinking, shrink your actions, and sabotage your momentum before it ever begins. Let's name them. Fear of rejection. You don't launch, post, or speak. Not because you're not ready, but because you're afraid they'll laugh, ignore you, or worse, see you trying. You'd rather play small than risk being seen, wanting more. Fear of failure. Not the dramatic, crash and burn kind. The quiet kind. The fear that you'll give it your all and it still won't be enough. That you'll try and it won't work and you'll have to face what that says about you. Fear of success. Strange, but real. What if you actually make it? What if they expect more from you? What if your relationships shift? What if you lose your old identity and have to live up to a new one? These fears don't stop you with a hard no. They cloud your vision. They filter your decisions. You think you're being realistic, but really, you're filtering your life through fear. And here's the dangerous part. These filters don't just distort what you see, they distort what you believe is possible. You don't reach higher not because you can't, but because fear convinces you not to try. But what if you question the filter? What if you realize that fear is just a voice, one that doesn't always tell the truth? What if you stopped asking, what if I fail, and started asking, what if I don't even try? Fear will always be there. It doesn't leave. It evolves. But your job isn't to eliminate fear. It's to stop letting it lead. Because fear-based decisions may keep you safe, but they also keep you small. Bold moves require bold clarity. And clarity means noticing when fear is making your choices for you. So here's a question to ask yourself over and over. Is this decision coming from expansion or protection? Are you shrinking to stay comfortable or stretching to grow? The life you want will require decisions that feel risky. That's not a sign something's wrong. It's proof you're playing at the edge of your current identity. And that's exactly where transformation lives. So don't fight fear. Don't wait for it to disappear. Just stop giving it the steering wheel. You're not your fear. You are the one who decides what it means and what happens next. Chapter 12. The Mirror Moment. Radical Honesty and the Beginning of Change. There comes a moment in every journey when all the noise fades. No more plans. No more pretending. Just you, standing in front of the mirror, facing the truth. Not the curated version. Not the story you've told others. But the real reflection. This is the mirror moment. And it changes everything if you let it. Because here's the truth. Most people aren't stuck because they don't know what to do. They're stuck because they're not willing to face what's real. They sugarcoat their patterns. They justify their excuses. They blame time, money, circumstances, anything but the real reason. They haven't been honest. Not with others. With themselves. Radical honesty is the beginning of transformation. Not self-criticism. Not shame, but the kind of honesty that says, this is where I am, and this is what I've been avoiding. The mirror doesn't lie, but it doesn't judge either. It just reflects. It shows you the gap between who you say you want to be and who you're actually showing up as. And in that gap lives your power. Because once you see it clearly, you can no longer pretend. You either change, or you make peace with staying the same. This is the moment most avoid. They'd rather stay distracted than look inward. They'd rather change jobs, relationships, cities, anything but themselves. But nothing truly changes until you do. The mirror moment invites you to stop editing your truth and start owning it. To admit what you've been tolerating. To see what you've been settling for. To acknowledge the version of you that's been hiding, waiting, hesitating. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. And yet, here you are, reading this, feeling something stir. And that matters, because awareness is the first crack in the armor. And through that crack, something stronger can grow, responsibility. Not the burden kind, the powerful kind, the kind that says, if it's meant to be, I can choose differently. And I will. This chapter isn't about inspiration. It's about ownership. Ownership of your patterns. Ownership of your power. Ownership of the future you say you want, but haven't fully claimed. So here's the question. When you look in the mirror, what do you see? And more importantly, what are you willing to do about it? Because the greatest shift of your life won't come from motivation. It will come from the moment you stop lying to yourself. That's when everything begins. Conclusion. The choice that never stops. Change doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens in every moment you choose who you're going to be. You've walked through fear, identity, discipline, environment, and honesty. You've seen the invisible forces that shape your life and the silent ways you've held yourself back. But here's the truth no one tells you. There is no finish line. There is no final version of you to arrive at. There's only the next decision, the next action, the next version you're willing to step into. And in every decision, the same question appears again and again. Will I shrink or will I rise? Will I protect my comfort or pursue my calling? Will I keep performing for approval or live fully aligned? Because you already know, you've always known, deep down, the real you has been waiting, not for permission, not for perfection, but for one thing. Your decision, not a half choice, not a maybe, a decision that says, I'm done hiding, I'm done holding back. This life is mine, and I'm going to live it fully. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, it will challenge everything you've believed about what's possible. But the version of you that's reading this now isn't the same person who began this book. That version needed answers. This one is ready to act. So take the leap. Have the conversation. Say yes to what scares you, and no to what drains you. Draw the line. Raise the standard. Burn the boat if you must. But whatever you do, don't wait. Because this is your moment. This is the mirror. And the person staring back at you, they're ready.